Imagine sitting in this like really comfortable chair, listening to a low rhythmic humming sound and having the physical plaques of Alzheimer's disease literally swept out of your brain.
Right.
And doing this without a single pill or, any invasive procedure. I mean, it sounds a bit like science fiction, maybe even a little absurd.
Oh, totally. It sounds completely crazy.
But today we are taking a custom-tailored deep dive into an invisible force that is washing over you, the listener, right now as you listen to this.
Yeah.
We've pulled together this fascinating stack of sources for you, spanning modern neuroscience, this field called acoustic ecology, and going all the way back to ancient Eastern religious practices.
Yeah, it is a really wide-ranging stack of research.
It really is. And the mission for this deep dive is to answer one massive question. Is sound healing just this trendy internet buzzword used to sell yoga mats? Or is there, hard biological science behind how sound physically reshapes our brains, our bodies, and our reality? So, okay, let's unpack this.
Well, to really grasp how sound can remodel ourselves for the better, we actually have to confront what it's doing to our biology right now, which is usually for the worse.
Right, like we need a baseline.
Exactly. We need to establish a baseline because people tend to treat sound as a purely aesthetic experience, like a flavor or a color.
Yeah.
But it's not. Sound is a physical, mechanical force. It is literally a wave of pressure moving through the air, and we are constantly subjected to that pressure, whether our conscious minds are paying attention to it or not.
Because before we can talk about therapeutic gongs or, I don't know, special healing frequencies, we have to look at the baseline hum of modern life. And looking at the data from the sources, that baseline is essentially an invisible biological hazard.
It is, and the scope of it is actually quite alarming. The World Health Organization classifies noise pollution as the second largest environmental health hazard on the planet.
Wow.
Yeah, it sits right behind air pollution.
Okay, it's second largest overall, above water contamination or toxic chemicals.
Yes, above all of that. And the mechanism driving that danger is just deeply embedded in our evolutionary wiring. I mean, let's say you live near a busy road.
Okay.
When you have chronic exposure to traffic noise or airplanes flying overhead, your nervous system doesn't understand what a combustion engine is.
Right, it doesn't know what a Honda Civic is.
Exactly. It
Right.
just registers this massive, low-frequency roar. And to an ancient biological system, a low roar means a large predator is approaching. It triggers your sympathetic nervous system, causing your adrenal glands to flood your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline.
So if you're listening to this while walking down a busy street with sirens wailing, your body is chemically preparing to outrun a tiger,
Yes.
even though you're just, going to get a coffee. So my brain is essentially running a high alert security system in the background 24/7, and a passing truck is treated like a biological threat.
That is exactly what's happening. And that constant state of fight or flight doesn't just make you feel stressed. It physically degrades the cardiovascular system over time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, leading directly to hypertension, heart disease, and an increased risk of stroke. And the most insidious part is that this threat detection system doesn't shut off when you fall asleep.
Of course it doesn't.
Right. The research shows that low-level night noise, and we're talking 40 to 55 decibels here, which is just about the volume of a loud whisper or a steady rain, that is enough to completely disrupt your REM sleep cycle.
Wait, seriously? A loud whisper in the room is enough to pull the brain out of its most restorative sleep phase.
It is, yeah. And the cascading effects of that sleep disruption are severe, particularly for children. Studies looking at kids living near constant noise sources like airports or train tracks show significant delays in reading comprehension and major impairments in short-term memory at school.
Because they're just exhausted.
Well, their brains are too busy monitoring the environment for threats to properly consolidate memories while they sleep.
That is terrifying.
And if we look beyond the cognitive effects to the physical hardware of the ear itself, continuous exposure to anything above 75 to 85 decibels physically bends and damages the tiny hair cells in your inner ear.
Ouch.
Yeah, and that leads directly to chronic tinnitus or permanent hearing loss.
Which perfectly frames this incredibly interesting field mentioned in the sources called acoustic ecology. I mean, it explains why certain sounds heal us while others break us down.
Acoustic ecology is a brilliant framework. It was pioneered by researchers like R. Murray Schafer, who actually coined the term soundscape, and Bernie Krause.
Right, Bernie Krause.
Yeah, Krause gave us a way to categorize our auditory world so we can understand our stress levels. He divided all sound into 3 distinct buckets. There's biophony, geophony, and antiphony.
And the sources break those down nicely. So biophony is the sound of living organisms, right? Like birds, frogs, insects.
Correct.
And then geophony is the sound of non-living nature, wind in the trees, ocean waves, a river flowing.
Exactly.
And anthrophony is human-made sound, engines, sirens, construction.
Right. Now, think about human evolution. For millions of years, our nervous systems evolved bathed entirely in biophony and geophony.
Just nature sounds.
Yeah, and those sounds signal safety and a healthy ecosystem. In the natural world, a completely quiet forest actually means danger.
Oh, because it means a predator is nearby and all the animals are hiding.
Exactly. So a loud, vibrant, chaotic jungle is actually a comforting soundscape to our ancient biology because it means the environment is thriving and safe.
That makes so much sense. But anthrophony, the sirens and the engines, is completely alien hardware running on our biological software.
We are absolutely drenched in anthrophony today, and it is grinding down that biological hardware.
Which makes logical sense.
Yeah.
Because if harsh, chaotic noise physically damages our cells and spikes our stress hormones, the reverse must also be true, right?
Yeah.
Specific, controlled audio should be able to act as an antidote.
It absolutely can.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the sources show we can literally hack the brain's processing center using sound.
Yeah, one of the most direct methods for doing that is a phenomenon called brainwave entrainment. See, our brains operate using electrical impulses, and those impulses create measurable brainwaves. When the brain is exposed to a rhythmic, continuous sound frequency, it displays this natural biological tendency to synchronize its own electrical impulses to match that external rhythm.
I was trying to wrap my head around how that works in practice, particularly with the term binaural beats that kept popping up in the research. It sounds like an auditory illusion.
It is very much an illusion, yeah. It's a biological math trick. Imagine putting on headphones. In your left ear, a track plays a single, steady tone at exactly 400 hertz.
Okay.
But in your right ear, the track plays a tone at 410 hertz. Your brain is receiving these two slightly dissonant tones simultaneously. To make sense of the gap, the brain's processing center mathematically bridges the difference.
Oh, wow.
It creates a third phantom frequency inside your head at exactly 10 hertz.
The literal difference between the two tones. But you aren't actually hearing 10 hertz through the speakers.
No, not at all. The 10 hertz frequency is being generated entirely by your own neurological hardware, and 10 hertz happens to fall perfectly into the alpha wave state of the brain.
And the alpha state is what, exactly?
That is the brainwave state associated with deep relaxation and calm focus. It's the kind of state you typically only reach through years of practiced deep meditation.
That's wild.
Right. By simply feeding the brain two offsetting tones, you basically force it into a state of profound calm.
It's like a biological metronome that overrides the body's internal pacemaker. And from what I read in the sources, it's not just the brainwaves being altered. The actual tempo of the music changes the behavior of our physical organs.
Oh, heavily. The cardiovascular system responds powerfully to tempo. When you listen to music playing at around 60 beats per minute, it directly stimulates the vagus nerve.
And the vagus nerve is the main highway for the parasympathetic nervous system, right? The system that tells the body it's time to rest, digest, and heal.
Exactly. It's the longest cranial nerve we have, wandering from the brainstem all the way down through the heart and into the gut.
Okay.
When a steady 60 beat per minute rhythm stimulates that nerve, it sends a localized signal forcing your heart rate to drop. Your blood pressure lowers.
So it's an immediate physical reaction.
Very immediate. It tells your adrenal glands to halt the production of cortisol. At the same time, it cues the brain to release endorphins, which are the body's natural painkillers, alongside oxytocin, the hormone responsible for feelings of safety and social bonding.
Man. And while all those soothing chemicals are flooding the system, the brain is also executing this fascinating mechanism called cognitive distraction, which I love because it basically confirms that human brains are just computers with a very limited amount of RAM.
That is a perfect way to describe it. The brain's bandwidth for conscious attention is incredibly finite.
Right.
It simply cannot process multiple streams of high-intensity information flawlessly at the exact same time.
Meaning, if you are experiencing physical pain and you certainly focus deeply on a complex piece of music, or like the multi-layered reverberations of a Tibetan singing bowl, your brain literally has to steal computing power away from the pain receptors just to unpack the audio data.
The pain signals are still traveling from the site of the injury up your spinal cord, but the brain's processing center is just too overwhelmed unpacking the complex auditory information to fully register them.
Wow.
Your conscious perception of the pain plummets because the brain is busy listening.
That covers how sound hacks the brain software. Let's pivot a bit and move down into the physical tissue of the body itself, because sound isn't just a phenomenon that enters our ears.
No, it's not.
If sound is a wave of physical pressure, mechanical energy, what happens when it gets loud or deep enough that it bypasses the ears entirely and hits our skeleton?
This is the foundation of a rapidly growing medical application known as vibroacoustic therapy, or VAT for short.
VAT.
Yeah. To understand why VAT works, you really have to look at the material composition of the human body.
Well, the human body is roughly 70% water. And here is a wild physical fact from the sources. Sound travels about 4.5 times faster in water than it does in the air.
Exactly. Your body is essentially a perfect high-speed acoustic conductor. In vibroacoustic therapy, patients lie down on specially designed beds or sit in chairs that have low-frequency transducers embedded inside them.
By transducers are basically speakers.
You can think of transducers as heavy-duty subwoofers that prioritize physical vibration over audible noise. They pump specific frequencies, usually between 30 hertz and 120 hertz, directly into the patient.
So you aren't just listening to a bass line. You're having those bass frequencies physically pumped into your muscles, tissues, and bone marrow.
Yeah, and because you are mostly water, those low-frequency waves just ripple through your entire cellular structure. Researchers describe it as an internal massage at the cellular level.
An internal massage.
Yeah, this physical shaking dilates small blood vessels, dramatically increases circulation, and helps the lymphatic system flush out metabolic waste.
And the pain relief aspect of this operates on something called the gate control theory, right? When I was reading this, I kept picturing a biological DDoS attack. Like the brain servers are so overwhelmed processing the heavy bass traffic that the slower pain emails literally bounce back.
That is a highly accurate analogy, actually. Inside your spinal cord, there is a neural gate that dictates which signals are allowed to travel up to the brain.
Okay.
Pain signals travel along very small, relatively slow nerve fibers. But the sensation of mechanical vibration travels along large, highly insulated, super-fast nerve fibers.
I see.
So when you pump a low-frequency vibration into the body, that heavy vibration signal races up the fast nerve fibers, hits the spinal cord first, and slams the neural gate shut. The slower pain signals arrive a millisecond later and find the path blocked. They never reach the brain at all.
It is phenomenal engineering by the human nervous system. But VAT isn't just being used for pain management. The clinical breakthroughs happening right now are staggering, specifically around the use of one frequency.
Yeah.
40 hertz.
Yeah, 40 hertz is emerging as a profoundly important number in neurology.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. For patients suffering from Parkinson's disease, applying a 40 hertz vibration directly to the body has been shown to significantly reduce muscle tremors and improve their walking gait. But the real frontier, the research that is turning heads globally, involves Alzheimer's disease.
Okay, hold on. I need to stop you there. Are you seriously telling me a subwoofer vibrating a chair at 40 hertz can clear dementia plaques from the brain? Because that sounds exactly like the internet pseudoscience we were supposed to be debunking.
I know.
What is the actual mechanism there?
Sure.
Wait, so we are talking about a speaker system embedded in a chair that might help clear brain plaques without a single pill? How does a mechanical shake do anything to a disease like Alzheimer's?
I completely agree. It sounds unbelievable until you look at the microbiology. Let's break it down. 40 hertz corresponds to gamma brainwaves. In a healthy brain, gamma waves act like an internal metronome that synchronizes complex processing across different regions of the brain. In Alzheimer's patients, that gamma rhythm degrades and weakens early on in the disease. Now, inside the brain, you have these immune cells called microglia.
Microglia, these are the brain's internal janitors, right?
They are. They act as macrophages, basically constantly sweeping up and eating cellular debris and pathogens. When researchers exposed mice, and now human subjects, to 40 hertz audio and physical vibrations, it effectively jump-started that degraded gamma rhythm.
Wow.
And when the gamma rhythm comes back online, it radically changes the behavior of the microglia. They suddenly become highly active, changing their shape and aggressively consuming amyloid beta proteins.
And amyloid beta proteins are the exact plaques that build up and cause the cognitive decline in Alzheimer's and dementia.
Exactly. And it is entirely non-invasive. There are no pharmaceuticals involved. It is just mechanical vibration and audio prompting the brain's immune system to wake up and clean itself.
That is just, it's mind-blowing.
Yep.
But, okay, With all of this proven medical science frequencies, clearing brain plaques, vibrations shutting pain gates, we have to confront the wild west of the internet.
We certainly do.
Because if you, our listener, go on YouTube or Spotify right now and search for healing frequencies, you are going to get millions of hits promising absolute magic. We need to clearly separate the biological reality from the internet fiction.
Yes. And there are two very specific frequencies that dominate those internet playlists. 528 hertz and 432 hertz.
Right.
Let's start with 528.
The famous DNA repair frequency. You see this everywhere. It's usually tied to the solfeggio scale, which was popularized by Dr. Joseph Puleo. The claim is that listening to this specific tone will literally stitch broken DNA strands back together.
We need to firmly and unequivocally debunk that claim right now.
Let's do it.
There is absolutely no biological, genetic, or physical mechanism where an acoustic sound wave can repair the chemical bonds of a broken DNA strand. DNA repair requires highly specific biological enzymes inside the cell, like DNA polymerase, to physically reconstruct the nucleotide sequence. An audio track on Spotify cannot do that.
But the sources suggest we shouldn't completely throw 528 hertz out the window. There was a study from Juntendo University in Japan that found a very real biological effect, even if it isn't repairing DNA.
Right. The Japanese researchers found that after just 5 minutes of listening to music tuned to 528 hertz, participants experienced a significant drop in cortisol levels.
That's huge.
Yeah, and they also saw a sharp decrease in chromogranin A, which is a protein released by the neuroendocrine system when the body is under severe stress. And simultaneously, their oxytocin levels boosted. So, does it repair your broken DNA? No. Does it rapidly de-stress your nervous system, which in turn allows your own immune system to function optimally? Yes.
I see where you're going. It's a great tool, it's just marketed with the wrong label.
What about 432 hertz? Because the dominant claim here is that it's the frequency of the universe, or the natural resonance of the Earth itself. The theory goes that modern music, which is tuned to 440 hertz, is somehow unnatural and causing societal anxiety.
Again, we have to strip away the cosmic mythology here. The Earth does have a base resonance. It's called the Schumann resonance, which is the frequency of the electromagnetic cavity between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere.
Okay.
But that resonance is around 7.83 hertz, nowhere near 432. And more importantly, the Schumann resonance is an electromagnetic wave. It is not an acoustic sound wave. You can't hear it. The math simply doesn't align with the claims.
So the idea that 432 hertz is the acoustic heartbeat of the galaxy is mathematically false.
It is. But what's fascinating here is that despite the cosmic myths, 432 hertz does produce a measurable clinical effect.
Really? How so? Well, from an acoustic standpoint, music tuned to 432 hertz physically sounds slightly warmer and deeper than standard 440 hertz music. Clinical tests, such as a really notable study done on emergency room nurses in Italy, showed that listening to music tuned to 432 hertz lowered their heart rates more effectively than standard tuning.
Oh, because that a warmer, deeper tone is just slightly better. It's stimulating the vagus nerve and kicking off that parasympathetic rest and digest response we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Add to that the psychological component, which we cannot ignore. The placebo effect.
Yeah, the placebo effect often gets a bad reputation, like it implies the patient is gullible or the treatment is a scam.
But it's not. The placebo effect is a highly potent neurobiological process. It is the brain's ability to heal the body based entirely on belief and expectation.
Right.
When you lie down, put on a 432 hertz track and consciously tell yourself, I am taking time to heal, you create a profound sense of safety for your limbic system. You quiet the amygdala, which is the brain's fear and threat detection center. When fear drops, inflammation drops, pain drops, and the body's natural healing mechanisms shift into high gear.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener, staring at a YouTube playlist? It means these frequencies aren't magic spells. They aren't going to rewrite your genetic code or sync you to the rotation of the planet. But they are highly effective, proven biological tools for severe stress reduction.
Exactly. They're acoustic tools that cue the body to do the healing work it already knows how to do.
And what's truly amazing is that modern neuroscience, with all its EEG machines and blood tests, is really just putting hard data to practices that Eastern traditions have been utilizing flawlessly for thousands of years. It's like they built ancient sound therapy laboratories using gongs and chanting instead of transducers and heart rate monitors.
The empirical knowledge of how sound transforms the human mind has been baked into Eastern religious rituals for millennia. I mean, look at Buddhism and the use of wooden fish blocks in chanting. It provides a continuous rhythm to prevent sleep and maintain mindfulness.
And temple bells.
Right, the deep tones of those temple bells literally slow the breath. And look at Hinduism and the practice of Nada Yoga, the yoga of sound.
Oh, yeah?
The chanting of O is considered the primordial sound of the universe, representing connection to Brahman. But if we look at it through a neurobiological lens, the deep, sustained, vibratory humming of OM running through the chest, the throat, and the vocal cords is the ultimate physical stimulant for the vagus nerve.
It's essentially internal vibroacoustic therapy. And it does something else fascinating to the brain. The sources mention that chanting significantly quiets the default mode network. Can you clarify what the default mode network is doing to us?
Yeah, the default mode network is a network of interacting brain regions that is highly active when you are not focused on the outside world. It is the me network.
The me network.
Yeah, it's the part of the brain responsible for our mind wandering, our self-referential thoughts, our rumination on past regrets, and our anxiety about the future.
So it's the ego's playground where all our anxieties loop on repeat.
Precisely. Chanting a complex vibratory sound like OM forces the brain to focus entirely on the physical vibration and the breath in the present moment. It starves the default mode network of computing power, essentially turning the volume down on our existential anxieties.
The sources also brought up this deeply moving tradition from Vietnam Chao Van, a form of shamanic music in the Tufu religion.
What stood out to me here is the role of the music itself. Because in so many religions, music is just the background for a text or a sermon. But in Chao Van, the music is the scripture.
Yeah, there are no written texts or dogmas required. The music itself, the complex rhythms, the driving beat, is the vehicle used by the shaman to enter a trance state, communicate with the divine, and soothe earthly pain.
That's beautiful.
The auditory experience, the physical act of being washed in that specific rhythm, is the entirety of the healing process. Which brings us to a really profound philosophical synthesis found in Buddhism. Because Buddhism teaches that the true healing power of sound isn't just in the mathematical frequency or the vibration of the tissue.
No, it raises a crucial question. What is the mind actually doing while the ear is listening? In Buddhist philosophy, sound is considered the ultimate perfect teacher of a concept called anicca, or impermanence.
Impermanence.
Yeah.
Because you can't photograph a sound, it doesn't exist until the exact moment it is struck.
Think of a large temple bell. The bell is struck. The sound rises out of silence. It exists for a brief, evolving moment in time. It fades, and it inevitably returns to silence.
Wow.
You cannot hold on to a sound. You cannot freeze it or keep it for later. You can only experience it as it passes through you.
Right.
Listening mindfully to sound trains the human mind to let go, to experience life without desperately clinging to it. The healing isn't just a 40 hertz vibration shaking the water in your cells. The deep, spiritual healing happens in the conscious act of listening and letting go.
Man. From the invisible, chaotic dangers of modern noise pollution dumping cortisol into our bloodstreams, all the way down to a 40 hertz vibration clearing the amyloid plaques of Alzheimer's, to the ancient wisdom of a temple bell teaching us how to let go of our anxiety. Sound is so much more than just a song on the radio.
It is the invisible architecture of our environment, and it is actively building up or breaking down our biology every second of the day.
Which means we need to fiercely protect that biology. To bring this all the way down to a practical takeaway for you, our listener, the sources offer a golden rule to protect the physical hardware of your inner ear from the crushing anthrophony of the modern world. It's called the 60-60 rule.
Yes. To prevent long-term irreversible damage to those fragile hair cells in the cochlea, never listen to your headphones at more than 60% of their maximum volume, and never listen for more than 60 minutes at a time without giving your ears a break in absolute quiet.
60% volume, 60 minutes max. Because once those tiny cells are bent and damaged by the noise, they do not grow back.
Right.
We have to treat our auditory environment with the respect it deserves.
Exactly. Since we now know that sound isn't just a passive experience, it is intense mechanical energy that physically ripples through the water in your cells, altering your brain waves, your immune system, and your heartbeat. What kind of acoustic diet are you feeding your body right now? How is the soundtrack of your daily life literally, physically shaping who you are?